What is up, YouTube? Welcome back to the channel, everybody. Thank you guys so much for tuning in on this video. This weekend we got quite a few things I want to get done, a few things I want to get accomplished here. As you guys saw in that opener, we got a whole bunch of installation done last weekend. That's why we didn't have a video up. So I'm super excited that we were able to get a lot of this up. We're going to continue to work around the whole barn here. We got a lot of installation to get up, so slowly going to knock that out so that eventually we can get the race truck tucked back in here, so that we can start setting that engine in and moving forward on that. But real quick, guys, last week or 2 weeks ago, we did a little install on the Dodge there. I was having an issue where my torque converter was locking and unlocking. I've had a few people kind of ask me if that kind of solved my issue, and for the most part, it did solve my issue. So after I installed it, I've had it happen probably 3 or 4 different times now since then, and it's been about 2 weeks, so it didn't completely solve the issue, but it definitely eliminated it about 90%. So the next thing I'm going to try, one of you guys actually mentioned something in the comments underneath that video about unplugging the crank sensor and throwing some dielectric grease in there and plugging it back in. That, you know, could potentially be moving around causing that same issue. So I am going to try that as well. So that's going to be something I'm going to try to get done today as well, so that we can also see if that helps completely eliminate it. But that BD isolator pigtail definitely solved about 90% of the issue. So very happy that we were able to get that taken care of. We did have a output shaft seal on the transfer case go out. But other than that, the truck is awesome, guys.
Race truck looking good.
So if you guys follow me on Instagram, you guys know what we are going to be doing today already, based on what I posted on my Instagram. As always, guys, I'm going to leave that right here, and it's down in the description as well. Go over there, give me a follow, and you guys will be able to see a little bit of sneak preview of what's to come on the channel, usually before I post the video, or what's going to be coming for that weekend. So we have a huge upgrade to do on the race truck engine. It's something that I've been kind of wishy-washy about. A few of you guys actually had mentioned that we should do this upgrade, but I don't plan on running that many RPMs. But you know what, for safety purposes, and I mean, I'm investing so much money into the engine and the truck itself that having this little bit of peace of mind will definitely go a long way. I think a lot of you guys are interested in this upgrade too, so let's get right to that, and I'll show you guys what we got for it, and then we'll get it installed.
So our boys over at Warren Diesel Performance and Injection, WDI, they make this low pressure oil pump gear. This is actually a billet inner gear and a OEM outer gear. So a lot of times what happens, your inner gear here, you can see it's keyed. So it's got this flat surfaces. This is keyed to your front of your crankshaft up front there. And a lot of times what happens, anything over really about 4,000 RPMs, you have a potential possibility of blowing this inner gear apart. So Warren Diesel makes this fully billet, very, very strong. And they actually run this in their sled pull truck. That's like 1,800 horsepower or something like that, and they don't have any issues, and they're running close to 5 grand RPM. So this was just a little bit of peace of mind. This truck, we're probably going to be pushing over 4 grand on the RPM, so this will be nice to have in there just for peace of mind, knowing that we got this and that it's not going to blow apart on us. So this is a kind of a tricky install. We got some assembly grease here. We got our new front crank seal. We also have ARP bolts for our crank balancer. And then lastly, you have this special installer. This is an OTC tool. I believe it's 303761. So you will need that special tool to install our crank seal here. It also comes with a wear sleeve. There is one other seal right here for our low pressure gear cover. And then the only other thing we're going to be doing today is installing a new crank position sensor. I'll show you guys mine. I'm guessing when I removed the engine that it got kind of screwed up here, so we are going to be installing a new sensor. I'm going to have to somehow get this pigtail fished out of there, and then get this out of there. So we are going to be doing that as well. But yeah, should be a really good install. We'll get to it. Alright, so we got our sensor, crank sensor changed out here. You can see we were able to get it fully removed here. Real quick little tidbit, when replacing this, make sure you clean up the block a little bit before you stick the new one in, and then obviously lube up your O-ring before you stick the new one in, get it plugged in. And the other thing, guys, if you're doing something like this and you just have the engine out in general, make sure you do a once-over. There's, you know, you got your cam sensor on this side, you know, make sure that that one's doing okay, your crank sensor, you know, those are a lot of the lower sensors that you're really going to want to take an eye or make sure you look at, because that, I know for a fact that these two are a pain in the butt to do once the engine goes back in. So it's not something that you want to find out later down the road when you're trying to start the engine up. So we're going to get to installing our low pressure oil pump gear and get this crank balancer off and keep moving forward. These are 18mm 6-point bolts, so make sure you use the correct size and 6-point. Don't use a 12-point on these. These are a stretch to yield bolt, so make sure that you do replace these. If you don't go with the ARP ones, make sure you get OEM Ford ones. We are not going to be upgrading this to an ATI dampener or anything like that. I've heard that these, well, obviously the stock one here is fine for the horsepower level that we are going to be at. But I've also heard that some people have major issues with the ATIs and other brands when it comes to these on the 6.0s and that low pressure oil pump gear. So we are going to be sticking with the factory one here. So we're going to get these bolts pulled out, and then I will show you guys what's behind this, and then we'll keep pushing forward and get to that gear. Alright guys, so as you just saw, we were able to get our low pressure gears out. One thing to mention, once you get that cover off, which does take a little bit of play with that because it does have 2 dowel pins, one there and then one down there, which we're going to have to actually pull out of there to reset. We'll pull this one out as well. But one thing is use a magnet to pull those gears out, obviously, and now we're going to want to clean this surface up really well. We're going to pull our dowel pin out on both of those and get those resituated, make sure that they're sitting flat and flush inside the front cover here, and then we'll step to actually installing those gears and what is recommended when doing that. So pretty simple so far. We'll get some of this stuff cleaned up here, and then we'll prep our new low pressure oil pump gears. Alright guys, so we have the front crank seal out. All you gotta do is put this down, put something behind here, and then just pound it that way. Pops right out, no big deal. We do have our new O-ring. What you can do is just buy the whole front cover like seal kit that Mal sells. I actually had an extra gasket laying around, so we actually have one for that. We have our surface cleaned up on there. Biggest thing, guys, you want everything to be super clean. We do not want any foreign material getting into this system, because this is what creates your base oil pressure. Your truck will not run if it does not have this pressure. One thing to look at while we have this apart is this is where your oil pump gear actually rises, the front surface of it. So we want to look right here, right where that wear mark is, right where this wear mark is. There is a little bit of, I can get my fingernail on that. Can't really get my fingernail on that, but this is what creates your oil pressure, your actual base oil pressure when those gears start to move. So you want to make sure that this doesn't look too terrible. This really isn't too bad. This truck had 160,000 miles on it, so you are going to have a little bit of wear, but this is not nearly as bad as what you might see on a truck that has like 250. So we are going to be reusing this. We got our new seals though, crank seal up there. And now we're going to go ahead and install that first, get that situated, and then you guys are going to want to get you some of this stuff here so that we can get that pre-lubed before we start the engine. Alright guys, so as you just saw, we got our low pressure oil gears in. I kind of lube up inside of there first, and then you lube the inner gear as well. Stick it in there, slide it in there, make sure it's lined up with the crank, slide it in. Everything has to be nice and even, keep them together and slide them in together. And then the next thing I'll do is I'll fill the pockets. There's usually pockets up at the top there. Fill it with that lithium grease, turn it over, and then fill up the other half of the gear as well. And then when I stick this cover on, I just fill those two holes. You guys saw that in the video there. I'll fill those up, stick this on. We'll get those torqued down. I believe it's like 15 foot-pounds, maybe 18 foot-pounds on those. So we'll get those torqued down. But we're gonna go ahead and move on to installing our crank seal. There is a little special tool here. So there is this special tool to install the crank seal. I am going to show you guys how to use this. The other thing, this crank seal comes with a wear sleeve. You see the metal sleeve in there. That is very important because where this seal rides, see right there, there's a little bit of a lip. So we need to make sure we use that wear sleeve so that we don't have a front crank seal leak. So let's go ahead and get this prepped, and then I'll show you guys how to use it installing this tool. Alright, so the first thing you're going to do is you're going to have your crank seal here with the wear sleeve inside of it. Keep these together. These little letters and stuff, the flat surface is going to face out. And basically all you're going to do is just kind of set it on here. You're just going to barely get it started just like that. Nothing to it. And then now we're going to go ahead and install this piece here, which if you see, it's got a little spot for your dowel pin on your crankshaft. So you're going to install this piece on there inside of your crank seal there, and this piece should slide right over the or right just inside of your wear sleeve, and then you'll be able to get that on over top of it with this. So let's go ahead and get this piece on here, and then I'll check in with you guys then. Alright, so with the crankshaft installer tool here installed like this, this is a 15/16 nut. We're going to use our little wrench here, and we're just going to run that down. You might have to have somebody back there to hold the backside of the engine while you do this, or else the engine will try to turn over. We need to make sure that this fully seats. You'll know when it's fully seated because this will actually bottom out on the crankshaft. So it's designed specifically for this, so make sure you have this tool when you're doing this so that it's installed correctly. So we're going to go ahead and get this ran down, then we can get our balancer back on. Alright, so as you guys can see, that went very, very smoothly. This tool is ideal, perfect for using this here. It installs this wear sleeve perfectly in here, so it's perfectly flush and flat here. And this is going to prevent our seal from leaking, because now our seal is going to ride on that wear sleeve versus on the actual crankshaft where we had that little bit of a groove. So we're going to go ahead and get our balancer back on. You can see there's a little dowel pin there, so it lines up in the exact same spot. And then we are going to get our ARP bolts over here. I'll show you guys the part number. Right there. It says 6.4, but these fit 6.4 and 6.0. It's the same balancer for both trucks. We're going to use our ARP lubricant, of course, on the threads. And then we're going to torque these down to specifications. We'll do that, and then this will pretty much wrap up the project. So let's get these on. With our bolts and washers lubed up correctly, and then we also have the surface where the washer hits the balancer. We also have that lubed up with a little bit of ARP torque lube. It also says to torque to 90 foot-pounds. We'll get them run down hand tight first, and then torque them to 90 foot-pounds. There is a chamfered side of this washer. Make sure you point that towards the bolt head. So the flat side of the washer will face towards the balancer. So we're going to get this up, and then we'll get those down hand tight, and then torque them down to 90 foot-pounds.
Alright guys, so that is going to do it for today's video. We got the crank balancer installed, torqued those down to 90 foot-pounds as you guys just saw. So everything is good to go, everything is installed, everything is perfect. We used every tool that we were supposed to use, every specification we were supposed to use. That is the most important thing when you are assembling something like this, is being 100% positive that everything is being done correctly, up to spec. Everything's clean, very meticulous in the work that you do, especially when you're dealing with something like this, and all the money and the parts that you have into something like this. So very, very important. So super happy. Huge step towards getting this thing up and running and going down the track reliably and down the street reliably. So make sure you guys leave your comments down below. Let me know if you guys enjoyed this video, if this was a good upgrade. If you guys are looking to do something like this, let me know down in the comments below. As always, guys, thank you guys so much for watching this video. Make sure you like, subscribe if you are new. We'll catch you guys on the next video.